For the longest time, I have admired and envied best friends on television, especially best female friends. Lucy and Ethel, Leslie Knope and Ann Perkins, Abby and Alana, Mary and Rhoda. All my life, I wanted to marry to my Rhoda. I know that I'm Rhoda, by the way, because I'm a natural brunette with a sardonic attitude and an A+ rack. And I've had so many wonderful friends throughout my life, but TV friendships seem to promise something different. Something more intense and endlessly supportive, like sisters without the suspicion that mom loves the other more. As a kid with an imaginary friend who lived in the plum tree in her front yard, yeah, I was that fucked up, I spent a lot of time watching TV and falling in love with these kinds of friendships as I fantasized about being a hot girl in the city with a friendship that verged on codependency. But that's just it. These kinds of relationships aren't real, and some of these incredibly close relationships wind up getting in the way of the characters as individuals. The third and criminally final season of Shrill showed us that in the last episode as both Annie and Fran self-sabotaged their romantic relationships and wondered in the end if they were just using one another as a crutch so they didn't have to grow up. I found this incredibly poignant and realistic, while also infuriating because I want the show to go on forever, especially considering in the first season, I found Fran to be almost annoyingly supportive, as if she had no thoughts, wishes, desires of her own. It felt like she'd take a bullet for Annie and die with a smile on her face like, "That's okay, I did it for my best girl, Pearl. Ouch, I'm dying, Lilas." She's British, and that was actually like a really good British accent, so you're welcome, Hollywood. Hire me anytime. Anyway, this made me realize that this actually realistic conundrum in a friendship is rarely seen. Friendships grow and shift and evolve, but we don't really see that on TV. These friendships are so sweet, but they tend to be as unrealistic as rom-coms. Oh, sorry, I chewed on my own disillusionment. These rom-coms definitely made me think that I had to convince a moody, tortured genius to love me. Oh, Ethan Hawke as Troy Dyer. You were both a bad boyfriend and a bad friend. And with that in mind, not every single best friendship on television is a good example of friendship. Not every supporting character is actually supportive. So what do we do about those strange characters and those bad relationships? And before anyone gets prickly about this topic or thinks, "Oh my God, I'm Stephanie's friend, is she fucking dissing me?" I am not. I'll have you know that I originally asked my guest today if she was interested in talking about uncomfortable female characters in honor of her first short film, An Uncomfortable Woman. She'd been thinking of bad best friend characters, in other words, friends of the main character who managed to bring out the worst in the person they are supposed to be supporting, and I loved that idea. I had never really thought about it before, but it's true. As I've long obsessed with the trope of the overly perfect and supportive best friend, I've wondered if those tropes gave me the unrealistic views of female friendship that sometimes hindered me. I often felt bad about myself. Something must be wrong with me, that there isn't a Laverne to my Shirley. If anything, most of my friendships were chill or eclectic with friends who do their own thing while being supportive. But what about a friend that sometimes brings out the worst in you? What about an enabling friend, a troublemaking friend, a Julian to my Ricky? That's a Trailer Park Boys reference, and I can relate to that. We've all had at least one of those in our lives. It's practically a rite of passage. That feels very realistic, and it feels like something that rarely gets a spotlight, probably because it's uncomfortable. There aren't guidebooks to friendships. There aren't really advice columns or podcasts helping people navigate rough patches in friendships. Those times that you think all your friends are mad at you because they won't call you back or they don't like your tweets anymore or they called you a bitch to your face. Whatever it is, it feels to me like we are expected to wade through any kind of friendship problems on instinct when almost no relationship is 100% instinctual because, hello, more than one person is involved. I read recently that we view romantic relationships as impermanent, saying that all things must come to an end, like we're on some kind of home goods plaque. But we do not have the same view of friendships, which is why a friendship breakup can be more painful than a romantic one. A bad friend can be harder to disentangle yourself from. And worse yet, it can be way more complicated to love your friend and think they're a good person, but realize that the two of you have just outgrown each other, or you're in an unhealthy friendship, or you need boundaries. Ugh, boundaries. Because we don't really talk about those things in friendships. Not really. It's supposed to feel fun and easy and free, and usually it does, but nothing ever does to me. And it's a relationship like any other kind. And sometimes it's not supportive. And that is why I'm so excited to talk about the idea of bad friends in TV shows and movies. What a unique topic. Oh my God. My guest today is an actually supportive friend of mine, Meghan Ross. She's a comedian and filmmaker in Austin, and she has made 2 amazing films, An Uncomfortable Women and If You Ever Hurt My Daughter, I Swear to God I'll Let Her Navigate Her Own Emotional Growth, which features John Hamm. You know, the guy who played Jonathan Draper? Him, Ham, Zop. Sorry, improv instincts kicked in. See, those are instinctual. Meghan is a wonderful person. She's a wonderful friend. This is her idea for a topic, and I couldn't be more excited to talk to her, so let's get into it. All right, Meghan Ross is here with us today. And Meghan, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I did reach out to you and ask you if you wanted to talk about, like maybe bad female characters, like female anti-heroes or something like that, and uncomfortable female characters. And then you came up with this bad female friendships, these bad supporting characters. And I lost my mind because I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And 2, like we don't really talk about that in real life, so we don't see it very often on TV, I feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you said that, that made me think of like the fact that we don't really necessarily see those friendships in scripted television as much, or like they're not really like addressed as like toxic or bad friendships. They're just like, these are these 2 buddies. Like even Princess Diaries, I'm like, her best friend was really unsupportive when she became a princess. Like there's been moments where it's like you keep turning on each other where you're like, you're the bad one. No, you're the bad one.
Right.
But like in terms of unscripted, which is kind of also scripted, Real Housewives, I feel like are the ultimate portrayal of like toxic female friendships, because they're all like in love with each other one second and like fierce enemies the next. And it's like it's manipulated by the producers and Andy Cohen. And so we're led to believe that like women can't have healthy friendships when you can. It's just that we kind of brush the flaws under the rug a lot of times.
Right. And I feel like there's not an emphasis on like talking something out sometimes the way that you would other kinds of relationships, like even your romantic relationships, familial relationships, even your coworkers. I feel like you set boundaries, you talk about like that hurt my feelings, you let it all out and kind of hash it again. And whenever we do see that, I feel like it's all within a 1 episode contained storyline, and it's not like, I mean, the exception I thought of immediately when you said that, I thought of Insecure. I don't know if you saw Insecure recently, but they did a whole season where Molly and Issa, who are best friends the whole time, are just suddenly falling out, and you're kind of left at the end just being like, I hope they can salvage this again. And that felt so relatable. And I know that I read that Issa Rae had like 2 friendship breakups, and that's what she was basing that off of, because she had never seen that on TV or in movies before. That blew my freaking mind.
Yeah, that happens so much. Like that has happened to me at every stage in my like womanhood or whatever, girlhood to womanhood. Like it happened to me with my elementary school best friend when we went to different high schools. It happened to me with high school best friends when we went to college. Happened to me with like college best friends when we graduated. Like, so I think it's harder also when you're living in different cities, but I've had those breakups, but no one calls them breakups. It's just like a falling out. And there's not like a clear lot. Like, it's not like we like, relationships where you have like clear breakups where it's like, we're not seeing each other anymore. It just like dissolves and no one addresses it. And then you're like, do I need to revisit this? Or is this just completely like a part of the past and never to be salvaged again?
Yeah, it's like we think that like a romantic relationship is supposed to end, but friendships are supposed to be like instinctual. But like you're saying, I mean, things change and you fade in and out. I had a friendship breakup when I was in junior high, and it was the only time in my life. I mean, it was like a literal breakup. She told me she had moved to a different city, so she wanted to have a whole fresh, clean start. And so she told me she didn't want to be my friend anymore. And it was all over AOL chat. And I remember saying back to her, I was like, You're not supposed to break up with a friend. You let it fade away. Which, okay, I'm
That's
Kurt Cobain.
hilarious.
Yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah, put that in the AIM profile. That's deep poetry
right.
right
That's
there.
that's my log off, my signature, BRB.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then she ended up moving back after a while. So then she went to our school
Oh,
again
that's
and
awkward.
acted like that never happened. It would like chat me again and just be like, "Hey, so did you hear that me and Dan are dating?"
That's hilarious. Picking
Yeah.
things up. Yeah, I think there's I read Big Friendship by Anne Friedman and Amina Toso, the Call Your Girlfriend podcast host. And they talk about how like you do need to treat your friendships like your other relationships, and that like you have to put work in it into
Mm-hmm.
them. And there's like certain layers of friendships where there's some that are more passive than others. And those are kind of like more become like more acquaintances over time versus the ones you're like investing time in and like checking in with. But I definitely I feel like I've experienced that a lot in like as an adult. It's just so weird. I like did Bumble BFF like when I moved to Austin shortly after.
How
It
did
was
it
so
work?
weird. So basically it's like a regular dating app, except you're just searching for friends. It's so funny and weird.
Did you meet
And
any
I
friends?
I did. I met like I got kind of lucky in the beginning where I got matched with a bunch of other girls who matched with each other, woman.
Mm.
And so one of them organized a group hang and was like, instead of us doing all these weird, awkward one-on-one dates, let's like meet up like all 6, 7 of us and hang. And it was delightful. And I ended up hanging out one-on-one with a couple of them a few times after that. But it was, you know what it was? It was like, it almost was like when you start dating someone in the early stages and you're all like we were all smitten with each other because we're like the newness of a new friendship and everyone seemed so cool and brought different things to the table. But then like I had like a falling out with one of
Oh
them because
no.
it was awkward because like she brought a friend to my comedy show who dated a who used to date a like an abuser in the comedy scene. And
No.
I like revealed that I had heard rumors about him,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it wasn't my place to say that because they were like more committed to loyal to him versus like the woman in the comedy scene that have been like reporting on these things for years.
Right. And to the
So that
Bumble
was awkward.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't uncomfortable, and I can't even remember
Oh my
it. I
God.
remember I like apologized profusely. It hit me so hard because like I'm in a long-term relationship. I haven't had those like early dating
Mm-hmm.
moments in a long time. So I internalized it and
Oh.
like overanalyzed her text. I dedicated like a therapy session to this
Oh
like it was like
no.
very intense because I just
Yes.
felt so much guilt, even though at the end of the day I was like, I'm not going to defend an abuser. Like I'm
No.
not going to be chill about that. It was such a weird situation, but it's funny because we still follow each other on all this social media, and so it's like I'm seeing them all get married and have babies.
And
I'm like, hey guys.
I mean, congrats. It's like you're seeing what could have been had you like stuck
Yeah.
around and been in like a real friend group with all of them. Like, wow, we could have all been each
Yeah.
other's maids of honor. Like, oh my God. You
It
missed
was,
out.
I feel like we were trying to recreate like our own like college roommates who lived on the same floor moment, but we were all in our late 20s and early 30s, and like that's just not like you can't really map that
Oh my
like
God, I
friendship of
know.
convenience
Yeah, and
because
also that's like there's so much excitement when you're that young, you know? And then when you're trying to make friends and, I don't know, I guess your 30s, you're just like,
yeah,
yeah, I got a lot of other stuff to do. I got to like
yeah,
pencil a friend in. It really sucks.
yeah,
It's really hard to make adult friends, which I know is like not a novel concept. I'm not
yeah.
breaking ground here. But it really is. It's crazy
It
that it
is
is
really
just
hard.
like it does feel like dating, whereas when you were in college and things were just proximity or early jobs or whatever, I feel like I
Yeah,
didn't even think about it. I feel like I made friends like left and right, and now I feel
yeah,
like awkward to ask somebody that I want to get to know to be like, do you want to I don't know, it'd be like crazy if we got a
yeah,
drink non-sexually.
yeah. Yeah, and then even maintaining because it's like I've learned to be pretty decent at those one-off like when new people come to town, we were just talking about how like everyone's moving to Austin, and like I'll have mutual friends from other states are like, I know one person in Austin, it's Megan, you go hang out. And so I've gone on all these like first time in Austin friend dates, but it's really also hard to maintain because then I'm like, I see them thriving,
Oh
like
my
they
God,
go
yeah.
off and just, and so I'm like, should I check in with them? Do they need anything? Like, I have kind of a lot of acquaintances from different
Mm-hmm.
groups versus just from comedy, like it was in New York, or just from school, like it was in college. Now it's like you meet people from like various sources, and so it's kind of like harder to maintain those when it's
Yeah.
not like fucking boy meets world and we're all meeting at high school, like the school every day.
I mean, that's another thing. I feel like when I watched obviously so much TV growing up, hashtag lonely
Mm-hmm.
girl, and I
Yeah, hashtag latchkey kids, I was
yes,
one.
hashtag the babysitter got fired for using all of our spices and inviting over a friend who used a knife on us. It was weird.
Oh my
I
god.
I hope Julie's okay wherever you are. Yeah, it was just our babysitter had a psycho friend that she kept inviting over, and I finally told my parents, and they were like, "Oh, whoa, she's fired." So yeah, that happens.
Got the house to yourself.
Yeah, it was pretty rad. You know, coloring, watching Boy Meets World. It's pretty sick. But I would see these like a teenage and adult friendships, and I watched like a lot of like old sitcoms. It'd be like some Laverne and Shirley, or whatever, and I'd be
Yes,
like,
yeah, same.
I can't wait. I can't wait to be an adult and have these amazing
Yeah.
like ride or die friends. And we're getting into antics.
Hmm.
We're getting fired from the same job. We're eating all the chocolate in the
Yes.
factory. We're switching places to go on each other's dates. All these kinds of things
Yes.
that when I actually became an adult was just like, it was almost like I felt the way about adult friends that I think a lot of people feel about like rom-coms, where it's like I
Yeah.
had these
Yeah.
unrealistic, crazy expectations and not realizing like, oh yeah, no, everyone's like busy and has other friends and
Hmm.
they're not gonna like, do all that, like take a bullet for me essentially. Which is
Yeah.
why like when you suggested unsupportive supporting characters, that really really hit me because I was thinking like I spent so much time like loving those kinds of like idealistic
Hmm.
friendships that it took me a second to even like think of the friendships in TV shows or movies that weren't like that. And when you brought up
Yeah.
Jane and Daria of Daria,
Hmm.
I thought about it for a second. I'm like, yeah, I can think of a couple episodes where I remember even thinking at the time, like, Jane, why are you jealous of Daria? Why are you mad at
Hmm.
Daria? Although to be
Yeah.
fair, Daria did date Jane's ex.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama there. And like I will say this as a fierce, Daria and Jane stan. Like I
Mm-hmm.
grew up on Daria. I had like magnets and like stationery from Afterthoughts was a store in like this New Jersey
I
mall that
remember
doesn't exist anymore.
Afterthoughts. Yeah, it was like a
Yes.
Claire's
It
knockoff.
was like a Claire's knockoff, yeah. And so I loved Daria and Jane, and that also I thought like that's what high school friendships will look like, just being bitter and like hating everything. But the part like and I related to that a lot,
I was gonna say,
but
I feel
like
like that it did end up being the actual friendships I had in high school. It was just like,
yeah,
let's just stand on the side and make fun of everyone we don't like, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And even though we're the ones being bullied, we're so
Yeah.
much better than them.
And also,
Like
they're
we
probably
have the
standing
upper
over
hand.
there being like, why are those girls kind of mean to us? Just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
sorry.
Everyone's the bully, just like
Mm-hmm.
that 30 Rock episode. But Jane and Daria are interesting because like even though they're fun to watch because they're like these outsiders that are just critiquing all the other tropes of the characters and in high school, the popular people, the jocks, the like good students, but they kind of bring out the worst in each other sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I rewatched an episode where like yeah, Jane joined the track team because she was wanted to go after a guy, and then like just that one change of routine for them, their friendship like dissolved in like an episode. It like resolved itself because it was an
Yeah, it's
episode,
TV.
but like they just were at each other's necks about it because Daria was like, why are you doing this, you're not a track star. Jane was actually really good at track, but she was really doing it for this guy who ended up being a dud.
I wish that she
And that
hadn't
and
quit track.
yeah, it's funny. When I look at old episodes, I'm like, Jane looks so much like um what's her name, Annie Clark from St. Vincent.
Oh,
So I keep like
yeah.
imagining like her trying to be like a jock, or like how different her life maybe was in high school, because you see these like rock stars that were actually like really core in their youth. But yeah, Jane and Daria kind of like, and everyone, you can Google and people will be like, the best friendship there ever was, Jane and Daria. But they had their moments.
I immediately thought of the episode also. It's funny that it was like Jane joining track, which I would have loved to see, a full season where Daria has to acclimate to going to track meets or like hanging out less. Maybe she even meets like another friend to make up for the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, that's another, I feel like we don't talk about like, there's almost like a polyamory to friendships, like,
oh yeah,
it's like similar.
Can't
where it's
find
like,
another.
if you put all your eggs in one friend basket, that person's they're not gonna meet all your needs,
Yeah.
But I thought of the episode when you said that, when Jane dates a guy who's into swing music. And he goes full swing revival for an entire episode. And similarly, Daria's like, wow, we can't be friends anymore because you like swing.
Yeah, that happens so many times. It's like Jane meets the guy who's into this weird thing, and Daria's like, that's not cool to me, like that lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I feel like it's like, that reminds me of the Sex and the City episode that Carrie dates a guy who's really into jazz.
Yes.
It's like, what's up with these guys who are like really into one type of music and that's their entire identity?
I love it because it is relatable.
I was going to say, like, the guy I lost my V card was like also really into jazz. And it's like, okay, be into other things. I don't know.
Mean,
or like,
I dated a guy who only listened to a cappella, and it was charming until he turned it on to make out, and I thought, this twin bed and this a cappella life is not going to be for me.
Yeah.
By that time,
you can only have
college.
so much pentatonics while you're trying to have foreplay. Like that.
I had enough. Yeah, I found my limit of pentatonics that I can handle. So,
yeah.
I had to walk away.
You're like, I can't listen to Umbrellas by Rihanna one more damn time without like music in the background. I can't.
It's also crazy to me. I mean, it's total aside, and this guy's great, normal, whatever. He's never gonna listen to this. I don't even know him anymore. But it's crazy to me to be so into a cappella and not sing. That is a unique.
Oh yeah, that is pretty weird.
That's a unique characteristic.
Yeah.
Hollywood, get at me. I'll write a character. But that's something. There's a lot there. A lot there.
There's a lot. I want to see that character date someone who's really into ballet, but has never danced.
How will they ever get together? Okay, we're writing a romantic comedy.
We're writing it.
Sorry.
We're doing it.
Sorry. But it's the Jane and Daria one is so funny to me in particular because if anyone has never seen the cartoon, Daria is great.
Look it up.
Yeah, maybe
it's on Paramount now.
You can check it on Paramount Plus.
Good luck getting I have the DVDs but no DVD player, so I'm like, this is useless to me now. It's like an artifact in my home.
How will I ever crush on Trent without the DVD player? I have to this day. But I loved a cartoon crush that was a man with a pointy jaw.
Yes, he has a very sharp jaw.
But
and great voice.
Great voice.
Sexy, grainy, yeah. Perfect for rocking out to Stone Temple Pilots or whatever.
Whoa, Daria. What was the Twisted Circle or something? I don't remember. Twisted Sister. I don't remember.
Six Sad World.
Yeah, I don't remember what the band was called.
Show. It was like the OG TMZ or something. Six Sad World.
Yeah, honestly, Six Sad World is like what all the podcasts I listen to are now, which are just like, can you believe this crazy weird story about this Florida? It's just Florida man stuff, but
Yeah.
But Daria is the one that actually did shitty stuff, like I said, like dating Tom when she dated Tom, who used to date Jane, and then she ends up dating him. They date for a long time, and I feel like Jane does let out that jealousy, and then they work through it and are fine. But that was something that I'm like, well, that's real. That's like a real thing that happens and a real thing that people go through. And it was kind of cool that they work through it, but that felt like something that could have been again another, like, if this was Insecure, that's another season arc,
Yeah, because I think they dedicated, I know they had that like made for TV movie version, like, is it fall yet or something?
They did too.
And and they explored like her dating Tom and Jane dealing with it. But I do remember, like, I did a search of that episode recently, and it was like someone wrote like an article like in defense of Tom, and a
Oh
lot of
God.
Daria I know
Does he
that
need
was
a
someone's
defense?
hill to I don't know. I know that like a lot of Daria fans didn't like that move because they were like, this would never happen to Jane and Daria. They wouldn't let a man come between them, but like they had multiple times
Mm-hmm.
throughout seasons. And also, like, as heterosexual women, like that happens. Like
So
there are men who
much.
come between friendships.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can think of a handful, just in
Yeah.
my 20s of like witnessing like this kind of like jealousy, or like he's not good enough for you, and then
Mm-hmm.
like that puts strain on the friendship.
Or
And
if you're in
yeah, it
like a small
happens.
community, I mean, like when I was like in my very, very, very early 20s doing improv, everyone dated
Hmm.
each other. And
Yes.
it's something that now I look back on and I'm like, oh, that is kind of strange. Like, I'm sure that there were
Yeah.
moments of being strange. I did have a friend tell me that it was weird when the girl he was dating, who had dated a really good friend of his, but it's not like that's how they knew each other. And I think that was part of the
Hmm.
key, is everyone just knew each other from improv. So it wasn't like,
Yeah.
oh wait, but you're Tom's ex-girlfriend. I can't.
Yeah.
It's like you're the girl on Laugh House Riot or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish I could have
All
thought of
those
a better
fantastic
improv
names.
team. I like totally spaced. That was a really bad improv
I
team
mean, that
name.
feels like a very like 2000, and we're going off of 90s 2000 shows.
Yeah.
That feels like a show, a title that would be like a dated show where like MTV's Made goes to film like someone who needs more self-confidence, and Laugh House Riot is like the headlining troupe.
Yeah, okay,
That
now
feels
that
real.
you said it, I was like, okay, that does feel real. Yeah.
Yeah.
What if someone should do a Made where they just want to be in an improv team,
Yeah.
and they still get rejected because they're
Yeah.
just not good enough for Harold Knight. That's all there
No,
is to
never. They never make it.
it.
That would be very real.
That'd be really real. But people don't do it, and I remember this guy being like, "Yeah, it was only weird when she started talking about sex with him. Like she told me some sex story, and then I was like, oh wait, I don't want to know how my friend has sex with my
Yeah.
girlfriend actually."
Yeah, that's a really weird thing to bring up. I almost feel like she did it just to see if he'd get jealous or
Just to
like
be
turned on.
crazy.
Yeah. Do
I
you
love
want
to
to
be
know
crazy.
like all of your friends' moves in the bedroom? Just
That's
so
such a good
I imagine
question.
she thinks that all like male friends want to have sex with each other, because that
Oh yeah,
that vibe
maybe.
happens a lot in the improv community.
Oh yeah, it feels like every warm up is just an excuse to touch each other, or it
Mm,
did.
yeah.
It did, in
Yeah.
2011 or whenever. Not to
Yeah, I
date
was gonna say
myself.
these very pre-COVID times. Can you
Pre-COVID
imagine
times.
touching each other in
Yeah,
groups
I could
in a
never.
windowless room for
I
hours?
thank God for object work. I don't have to actually touch
Yes.
anything. Um,
Yes.
but you had also mentioned My So-Called Life, having
Hmm.
unsupportive supporting characters, and I have
Yeah.
not seen all of that show, so I wasn't sure
Hmm.
if you wanted to just kind of go off on what you mean by that.
Yeah. I'll go off. I think about this friendship so much. So we're talking about Angela Chase
Hmm.
and Rayanne Graff. And so the pilot episode, you see basically like Angela going fully into this friendship with Rayanne Graff. She's left her like safe friendship behind, which is uh oh gosh, I had it pulled up. What's her name? It's like a really like normcore like cottage house,
Cottage
Sharon
house.
Chursky.
Sharon she owns a little cottage. She's wearing
Yeah,
floral. Yeah.
she's a cheerleader. She's great. She's got a perfect life. And so like Angela, basically the season kicks off with her deciding like, I don't want to be the safer. It's very much like Freaks and Geeks,
Yes.
where
Yes.
I'm forgetting the main character again, but like her choosing to be friends with the freaks instead of the geeks, essentially. Um, the actor, I'm forgetting her name, the actress in Scooby Doo. She's in many other things
Sarah
too.
Michelle Gellar.
Uh, no, hold on,
The
this
other
is gonna
one.
bother me.
God, yeah.
Freaks
Why?
and
Why can't I
Geeks.
remember her name too? She's got dark
I see.
eyes.
Oh, Linda
Linda.
Cardellini, who plays Lindsay Weir.
Yes.
Yeah, Linda, and
Linda.
she basically dishes like her nerdy friend, to like become friends with like Kim Kelly and all them. But basically, that's what Angela does. Rayanne Graff is like edgy, like she's like your bad influence friend, like classic bad influence friend. Like she's gonna get you into the parties, like fuck grades, we're skipping class, we're obsessed about boys, like Jordan Catalano, which is played by what's his name,
Jared Leto, famed cult leader. Jared Leto.
famed cult leader. My favorite storyline is he can't read. He's a high school student who can't read. He's just beautiful, but he can't read.
He made it that far on looks, and you could do that in the 90s. That's something people don't understand. Yeah.
Couldn't like Beast from Beauty and the Beast, he couldn't read either, and like Belle like loves books, and it's like, oh my god, how are they going to be together?
And it was because he was hot, and then he had to develop a personality, which meant reading.
Yeah. You need to know how to read if you want a personality. It's a sad truth. I was like the opposite. Like as a kid, I didn't have the looks, but I love to read. I was like ingesting those books as soon as books and TV.
Yeah. Spent so much time walking to the library because it took a long time. So it took up, those were my summers when I had nothing to do. I would just walk to the library, just sit there and read a bunch of books on other countries. I was a nerd. And then I would walk.
Smarty pants.
I know. Then I would like walk back and like think about the knowledge about Sri Lanka I just learned. And then just watch TV all night.
Damn. That sounds exciting. I was just like binging Beverly Cleary books. Like I was just like, I want more female friendships for me.
Yes.
But Rayanne Graff is like a really bad influence on her. But they're like tight. I think that friendship is tested a lot. There's also like, boys come between them, of course, classic 90s storyline. And if I remember correctly, there's a scene that's like imprinted in my brain, because this happened to me in middle school, where Rayanne ends up making out with Jordan Catalano after Angela and him were like fizzled out, or maybe still dating, but like Angela was in love with Jordan. Like that was like her whole goal in the season, like find herself and then also maybe lose her V card. And Rayanne, the best friend making out with the boyfriend or ex or love or whatever.
That happened to you?
Yeah, so I've had so many bad toxic female friendships, but one of my best friends for like 8 years of my life made out with my best guy friend when they were drunk in like 8th grade. And it broke me so hard. I remember when I found out, like on the phone, like on an actual phone call, I put my All American Rejects CD in my Sony CD player and just listened to that all night and cried myself to sleep. He's gay now, which makes a lot of sense for the men I was attracted to at that age. And I'm friends with him still. I don't know if I think I told him like I had a huge crush on him.
Yeah.
But that like betrayal by the best friend going for that crush or boyfriend or whatever is like, ooh, that hit hard. And I think that's so why hard. Like that's
like a young thing, which I guess is why it's like perfect that it's teenagers, because I feel like you do get to a point where you're like, wait, should I stop being shitty or something, or opposite, where you're like, maybe like I should tell someone that bothers me. But that is like so high school, so college. I had this friend in college that my freshman friend, any guy I liked, she would swoop in and like then come up to me and be like, oh my god, did you tell Tyler about me? Because he and I were hanging out last night and we have so much in common. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I guess. And then they would just start dating. And then she did it again at a party where everyone was trying to set me up with this one guy, and she like swooped in and starts talking to him. And then proud of myself for this, I finally told her, I was like, dude, do you know you're doing that? Like, do you know this is like the third guy? And I'm like, you're hot and cool. I'm shy. I'm trying. Like, can you stop? And then she's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And she stopped. And we're still friends. So I guess maybe I'm kind of realizing now that you have to tell people how you feel.
Well, that's the other piece of it. It's like, I think in that scenario, she genuinely did not know how you felt and like was not aware. Whereas like Rayanne, that was kind of like intentional. Like she knew how her friend. So it's like
but she was so swept up in horniness.
Yes,
which is why it's a young
we
thing.
Get it.
Yeah,
we got the hormones pumping. Like,
oh my God,
I'm sure if I was in her position, I'd be like scooping the boys into my basket as well if I could. But
I smell that Axe body spray and I say, you come over here, you mix with my Bath and Body Works cucumber melon. You know?
Let that scent just swirl around.
Let's get a good mixture going in my bedroom, and my parents will never know.
Yeah, I'll light a Yankee candle and we'll really get down to business. Or incense, which is what my sister like who was like a teen of the 90s, would light when guys came over.
Okay, that's actually
it smelled so bad.
seductive. It's like, bitch, I smell like a Catholic church. Come in here.
Yeah, I know. It's like, is there going to be some communion later? And well, I got red wine. We're going to start with the blood.
Christ, yum.
Yeah. I'll show you a body.
Oh my God, I have to go to confession after
that's
this.
Not crucified.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Horniness aside, yeah, Rayanne Graff was such a bad influence, but they did an episode where you see her home life, and she's got like a single mom who's like really eccentric, like kind of wild, like every night's a party. And you're like, oh, she has no stability at home. Like, this is why she is like this.
Right.
And like Angela's mom is like this perfect, Bess Armstrong plays her. She's like this perfect, like mom haircut, like sweet, angelic woman. And so Angela has that stability. She has that like that grounding, whereas like Rayanne is the way she is because of like how she was raised. And so she's just like, every night's a party. Like my mom's like serving me and my best friend cocktails as soon as we come home from school.
Oh my God. I mean, that's a fun, cool mom.
But that's a fun, cool mom.
That's gonna fuck with you. Yeah, that's gonna fuck with you.
Yeah, it's gonna come back in therapy.
Yeah.
But
but isn't that always the way though? When you meet someone's like family and you're just like, oh, God damn it. Okay, now I see you're a whole person.
Now I can't be mad at you. Yeah, because I'm like, you were brought into this world this way. So the actress who plays Rayanne Graff, I'm looking up her, AJ Langer. She's like that, not like that at all in person, even though like I just see like she played that character so well. And she's now like a countess, like she's married to some like Dutch royalty or something and lives in a castle. Last time I Googled her.
Last time I called her.
Yeah. We were on the phone.
Last time I got a carrier pigeon from the countess.
Yes.
That is countess. Crazy.
Yeah.
I hope she's happy because I feel like no one that marries into royalty is happy.
Yeah, I think they were like, from what I read, I think it was like a People magazine article. It seemed like they were like had been together for a long time. Like she is like a real, like, you know, I have more faith in their marriage. Hopefully they're still together than the first countess I was introduced to Luann of Real Housewives of New York, who is not with her count.
A countess without a count. It's a love story.
I just confirmed they are still together. Quick Google search.
Thank God.
Because I would feel really bad if she listened to this podcast. Like,
I'm gonna tag her.
Please tag her. Please do.
Please, Countess. Please give us money. I also, side note, just would not marry into royalty. I know that makes me unique and special, but nope.
I wouldn't either.
Not for me.
Nope.
I don't even know if I'd marry a celebrity's kid.
Yeah, no, I think that you're going to be dealing with like some. I want it's like, give me someone with no connections, with no like baggage of like I need to live up to some royal expectation, or
maybe
my
no
dad's.
Parents.
Yeah. Give me an orphan. Give me an orphan.
Give me a middle class orphan who now enjoys doing financial stuff.
Yes, and is in therapy to work through what very little
orphan stuff.
Like damage. Yeah. Just the orphan stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just general orphan. Right? Yeah, you gotta work through that somehow. Okay, Dream Man alert.
Dream Man, if you're listening and you're not a count, no counts.
No counts here. To go back to the unsupportive character stuff, I also thought of. Have you ever seen Trailer Park Boys?
Oh, I've been recommended that show a bunch, and I feel like it's just like sat in my queue, but it's 3 guys, right?
Yeah, it's 3 guys, but there's 2 of them in particular that are like the best friends that always get into trouble. And I watched it so long ago, and I recently rewatched it at like the 2nd season where they get out of jail, and then instantly one of them was like, okay, I got an illegal scheme for us to like make money again. And that is also, since I just rewatched it, I was thinking of that because it's like, oh, yeah, like this guy, one of them was trying to get out, trying to be good, and the other one, like, brought out the worst in him and legally going back to jail and doing whatever. But the show is like they're supposed to be best friends, you know, even though the one is
Mm-hmm.
so explicitly over and over and over again fucking over the other. But it's like
Yeah.
part of it, part of the comedy. And watching it now, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is so enabling and mean. And
Yeah.
it's still really funny, but it is just like kind of horrifying to watch someone just encourage all of the worst habits in them and their friend, you know?
Yeah.
And that is also something that I think that everyone has to go through. I mean, there's like the toxic friend, and then there's like the person that is constantly enabling you, and that is fun,
Yeah.
but you evolve past it, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Friend, I've learned about, so there's like three types of friendships. We're
Oh my
talking about,
God.
I
I
have
can't
this
wait to
book, Here
hear
to Make
this.
Friends.
Okay.
So that is definitely a friendship of pleasure.
A friendship of
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, because there's like friendships of, oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I can't
Let
wait
me
for
find, I
this.
like bookmarked the page because I'm like, I need to remember this, but yeah, I'll find it later. But basically it's like there's friendships of quality.
Mm.
No, there's like friendships that like work for you where, oh, here it is. So we've got friendships of utility. So these are like the networking type friendships. I feel like there's a lot of these in comedy and film where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
how can how can I like suck the like, connections out of you, or like a vampire. It's like, how can you benefit me in my career?
Oh
So those
yeah.
are friendships of utility where you're like, I mean, they can be good, positive too, where it's like, oh, you help me out with my project, I'll help you out with yours.
Right. And maybe you support each
Um,
other's, I guess, work, but it's almost like just having a coworker.
yeah, I realize I'm like in the pandemic, there were people that I was in touch with monthly for my show. And once that
Mm.
ended, I was like, oh, that like looking back, I'm like, that's a friendship of utility because we had the
Yeah.
show that brought us together, but like nothing else was like connecting us to hang out beyond that really.
Yeah.
And then there's friendships of pleasure, which I like, that's a totally Angela
Mm.
and what's it, Rayanne Graff, where it's like, this is the fun friend. She's gonna lead me into like danger
Yeah,
constantly
or it's
and
like the
trouble.
Paige and Alex storyline in Degrassi when she like just briefly became
Mm,
best friends with that girl and then also dated her.
yeah,
But it was the bad girl. So suddenly it's like Paige was partying, Paige was getting bad
yeah,
grades, all that kind of stuff. But she was
yeah.
having fun.
Didn't wasn't there an episode like Paige tried ecstasy
I
and
think
like
so.
like it was like a crazy episode. Like they made it seem like you will die and all of your friends will hate you if you try this little
If you try this one
candy.
drug that makes you dance really good for an hour,
Yeah.
your life will be ruined.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I remember that was like intense. And then there's friendships of the good, which is kind of like the ideal friendship where it's just like, it's your kind of soulmate. So they're like Thelma and Louise.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. They give an example, the cast of Entourage, and I'm like, those seem like friendships of utility.
Those definitely seem like friends of utility.
Yeah. Because they're like they say Entourage and then they're like, and the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Beaches. And I'm like, okay, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah, not at all. They should have said Fast and the Furious because it's like they're more like family. You know,
Yes,
that's a good quality
exactly.
friendship. More like family.
That's quality. Yeah. Or the Sopranos. It's like your
Yes,
family.
yeah. But then again, is it utility because they're on the mob?
True. It's weird, right? Well,
I
you can
know.
also have
Intersect.
friendships that are in both categories
That makes
or all
sense.
three.
That makes sense.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you have these three and they kind of, some are like in both or all three, which is
yeah.
like ideal if they hit all three. Yeah.
I
It's
similarly went through
interesting.
that in the pandemic because you do realize like how many people I guess were just like acquaintances and
Yeah.
there's a place for that too. But I think I had
Mhm.
to like work through that because I was just like,
Oh,
where are all
same.
these friends? You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it just kind of like reignited a lot of like old issues and stuff. And I remember my therapist was like, mostly thinking about community as in like people I knew in my sphere, which was like the a comedy scene, a comedy world, and she's like,
Hmm.
they're your coworkers. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what she
Hmm.
meant. It was like friends of utility, and it's like you get along with your coworkers, but when you stop doing a job, you usually just kind of maintain one or two of those friendships. And that
Yep.
blew my mind. That
Yeah.
completely helped me contextualize everything.
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
huge. That's
Yeah.
something I realized too. Steph, I was going through the same shit
Mm-hmm.
early on in the pandemic because I had this like routine of the people I saw and talked to all the time. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, it was like, no, like we had nothing pulling us together. And
Yeah.
you sort of, I like had to make peace with it where I'm like, yeah, they are like coworkers. And I was super tight with some coworkers. And then I left that, you leave jobs and maybe you talk to them once in a while. Maybe you run into them in like shared settings or whatever. But like, it's okay to not always have like the same level of communication or like what you think is friendship at all times during your life. Like
like
there's
an
some
all-time
that kind
high.
of like, yeah, exactly. It's like you're not going to maintain. You're not Paige and just like constantly shoving the friendship ecstasy down your throat and like always at this
You're
level.
right.
Like some, like you said, fade away,
And you got to be independent.
and some like, yeah. Oh, I had
I know so many feelings.
Real growth in therapy during the pandemic. Around,
I feel like we're both talking about this after being like, okay, I've clearly talked about this a lot in therapies. Are there some like TV, this will be my final question, are there any like TV friendships that you think of as like, I don't want to say ideal, but like almost like goals, where you're like, now that to me is a healthy, good dynamic? And yes, I know these are all fictional, but but
yeah, let me think. I'm trying to think of shows that like I binged in quarantine that felt like Our Place, or no, Our Place. Oh my God, The Good Place. Our Place is a fucking kitchen line. You can tell the Instagram ads have like embedded into my brain during the pandemic.
Our Place felt like I didn't know that. I felt like a Mr. Rogers for adults. It's like, come on in Our Place. Yeah. It's just, or a swingers party.
That sounds delightful.
Yeah.
Yes. Both work. The Good Place, even though like Chidi and Kirsten, whatever her name is, the main character, dated, and that's like, okay, that always happens in a friend group, but they were so different, and they all felt so like good at the end to each other and like loyal. And I think a lot of scripted shows will write best friends that are supposed to fit like puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And when you see friendships that are actually very like come from like very different places, very different people that also work together, that feels like it's like unlikely heroes, unlikely friendships, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And they come together in different ways.
Yeah. And then Schitt's Creek, the I'm not going to forget all their names because it's been so long since I watched.
Was thinking of I was thinking of Stevie and Dan Levy's character, David, of course.
Yes.
Right? Yeah,
David.
Okay.
Yeah.
David of David fame. I was thinking of their friendship because like they like you said, they seem a little unlikely. They do disagree on things. They also had that thing where they were like after the same guy. But it was
just like Jane and Daria.
Yeah.
Full circle.
But it was all like they still get along. They have each other's backs. They have different interests. They have other lives. They come together and they're there for each other. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think when you can see friendships of love, like where like and that happens, I think a lot when it's not like these people are forced to be friends because there's no other options. Which I guess The Good Place and Schitt's Creek is a little bit like that because it's like, is there no one else in this weird town?
I guess you're right. There is no one else.
Yeah. So it's like desert island friends.
Yeah.
But there's like a lot of genuine care there. And like you see conflict between those characters and you see them resolve it in like very human and adult ways. And that like empathy, I think, is huge. I think you need to. It's like, if I walked into Rayanne Graff's mom's apartment, like immediately, like empathy has to wash over you because you're like, oh, this is why you're so damaged.
Yeah.
You kind of like had like barely a fighting chance to like come out of this and not be kind of like a wild child. So I think empathy is huge. Understanding where people come from, their lived experiences, respecting boundaries, all that fun stuff. Once everyone gets into therapy and has healthy relationships with their family. And
oh my God. I mean, those are all words to live by. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Put it on a pillow.
I put all of it on a pillow. Put this whole podcast on a pillow.
Yeah, that whole ramble.
It's a body pillow, but it is something we can
Sell
hug.
it at Home Goods.
Trying to get that merch. Meghan, thank you so much for talking to us today. Where can the people find you? Not, obviously not at your house, but where else can the people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Meghan R. Ross. So that's MEGHANRROSS. And so I do a bi-weekly Instagram live series called No One Asked for This, where every other week now, I host or I interview an expert or community leader about a social injustice in the world that no one asked for, while I perform an activity at an average to below average skill level that no one asked for. And so that was born during the pandemic. And I did episodes up until the election and then took a break and then reignited it because shit's still messy as hell in Texas. So I get on live and complain about stuff. And at the end, I have like bath bombs and it's nice.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful day, beautiful time. But everyone check that out. Check out Meghan's work. And you can also find your films on your website, right?
So if you go to meghanrross.com, my last 2 New Yorker shorts are on there. An Uncomfortable Woman, just the trailer is live, where I'm in the middle of like music licensing to get that premiered publicly, because we just went through like the virtual film festival circuit. It's like a whole thing.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. And
thanks for having me.
Be a good friend, everybody.
Yeah, be a good friend. Otherwise,
you can do it.
Friendships fade away. Like Stephanie Weber, age 12.
Fuck yeah. AFI rules.
Yes, hell yeah.